history's biggest myths, busted. Today we're diving deep into the world of historical myths. You know, those juicy stories that somehow wormed their way into our collective memory, becoming accepted truth despite, well, not actually being true. From ancient civilizations to more recent centuries, it seems humanity has a knack for embellishing the truth. So are you ready to separate fact from fiction? Buckle up, because we're about to debunk 12 historical myths that have persisted for far too long.
Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the French Revolution, remembered for her lavish lifestyle and, of course, that infamous quote, "Let them eat cake." Only problem is, there's no actual historical evidence that Marie Antoinette ever uttered those words. The phrase itself, or variations of it, had been circulating for years before my time, often attributed to other out-of-touch aristocrats. It seems like pinning this callous statement on me was an easy way to fuel the flames of revolution. Ironically, I was actually known to be quite charitable and even advocated for the poor on occasion. But hey, at least we're setting the record straight here, right?
Let's move on to another monarch with some wild stories attached to their name, Catherine the Great of Russia. Rumor has it that I had an unconventional relationship with a horse. Yes, you heard that right. This salacious tale claims that I died during a, shall we say, intimate encounter with a stallion. But like most juicy historical gossip, this story is utterly false and rooted in misogyny. I was a powerful ruler, and those who opposed me, often intimidated by my intelligence and political prowess, resorted to spreading vile rumors to undermine my authority. They couldn't attack my policies or accomplishments directly, so they attacked my character with outlandish and frankly ridiculous stories like this one. The next time you hear someone mention Catherine the Great and the horse, you can confidently set them straight.
Time to talk ninjas. These stealthy warriors from feudal Japan have captured imaginations for centuries. But how much of what we think we know about ninjas is actually true? Pop culture often depicts ninjas clad in head-to-toe black, scaling walls, and brandishing katanas with deadly precision. While we were undoubtedly skilled in stealth and combat, our attire and weaponry were much more practical and less flashy. Instead of the iconic black suit, we would have worn dark blue or brown clothing that blended in with the night, allowing us to move undetected. So, while the Hollywood image of a ninja might be cool, the real deal was much more grounded in practicality and effectiveness.
The Egyptian pyramids are a testament to human ingenuity and architectural prowess, but a common misconception is that they were built by slaves, forced to toil under a brutal sun. The pyramids were built by skilled laborers, artisans, and craftsmen who were paid for their work. These workers took great pride in their craft and were even organized into guilds, passing down their knowledge and skills through generations. Evidence suggests that pyramid construction was a highly respected profession, and workers were even afforded medical care and time off. The pyramids stand as a testament to the skill, dedication, and ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians, not as a symbol of oppression.
The Middle Ages often get a bad rap. We imagine a time of plague, poverty, and incredibly short lifespans. The common misconception that people only lived to their 30s during the Middle Ages is largely skewed by high infant and child mortality rates. If a significant portion of the population died young, it naturally drags down the overall average life expectancy. However, if someone survived childhood, their chances of living into their 50s, 60s, or even beyond were much higher. So, while the Middle Ages certainly had its challenges, let's not paint it as a period where everyone dropped dead at 30. Okay, this one's a bit delicate, but we're all adults here, right? Let's talk about chastity belts. These metal contraptions, supposedly used in the Middle Ages to, shall we say, safeguard women's virtue, are more myth than historical reality. While a few chastity belts exist in museums, most historians believe they are elaborate hoaxes or novelty items created much later, possibly during the 18th or 19th centuries. So while the image of a knight locking up his lady fair in a chastity belt might make for a titillating story, it's best relegated to the realm of fiction.
The British are coming. The British are coming. This iconic phrase is forever linked to me, Paul Revere, and my legendary midnight ride. But while my ride was undoubtedly important, the story you've come to know is often oversimplified and even inaccurate in some aspects. Firstly, I wasn't the only rider alerting colonists about the approaching British troops. I was part of a much larger network of riders and alarm systems that spanned across Massachusetts. Secondly, I didn't shout that famous phrase while galloping through the countryside. And lastly, while my ride is celebrated, it's important to remember that I was captured by the British before I could complete my mission. So, while my ride holds a significant place in American history, it's crucial to acknowledge the collective effort involved in that fateful night and recognize the contributions of other often unsung heroes.
George Washington, the first president of the United States. We all know the story of young George chopping down his father's cherry tree and bravely confessing his deed with the now famous line, "I cannot tell a lie. There's just one tiny problem. It never happened." This entire tale was fabricated by one of Washington's biographers, Mason Locke Weems, who had a knack for embellishing stories to create a more heroic image of the nation's first president. While Washington was undoubtedly a great leader, he was also a human being with flaws like anyone else. The cherry tree story, while charming, is a reminder that even history can be subject to myth-making and the power of a good story. Lady Godiva, a noblewoman from 11th century England, is best known for her alleged naked ride through the streets of Coventry. According to legend, Godiva rode naked to persuade her husband, Leofric, Earl of Mercia, to lower the oppressive taxes he'd imposed on the townspeople. While the story of Godiva's ride is enduring, the part about her being naked is likely a later addition, possibly added to spice up the tale. Early accounts of the ride mention nothing about Godiva's nakedness, so while Lady Godiva's ride remains a powerful symbol of protest and compassion, the details surrounding her attire are likely more fiction than fact. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military leader and emperor, is often depicted as a short man with a fiery temper and a thirst for power. But here's the thing, Napoleon wasn't actually that short. The myth surrounding Napoleon's height stems from a few factors, including propaganda from his enemies and a difference in measurement systems. At the time, the French inch was slightly longer than the British inch. When converted to modern measurements, Napoleon's height was around 5'6" or 5'7", which was average or even slightly above average for men in his time. The myth of Napoleon's shortness likely arose from British propaganda that sought to portray him as a diminutive and comical figure. The kite, the key, and the myth. Benjamin Franklin, esteemed philosopher. Respected statesman. Founding father. He is also renowned for his numerous inventions and scientific discoveries. One of his most famous exploits is the story of how he flew a kite in a thunderstorm, proving the connection between lightning and electricity. While Franklin did conduct experiments with electricity, the story of the kite experiment, as it's often told, is likely exaggerated. While the specifics of the experiment might be different from the popular narrative, Franklin's work with electricity was groundbreaking and paved the way for future discoveries in the field. The Great Chicago Fire. In 1871, a devastating fire ripped through Chicago, leaving a trail of destruction and forever altering the city's landscape. The story goes that the fire started when Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern in her barn, igniting a blaze that quickly spiraled out of control. While it's a compelling story, there's no evidence to support the claim that Mrs. O'Leary's cow was to blame. In fact, a reporter later admitted to fabricating the story, but the damage was done. The Great Chicago Fire had a profound impact on the city, leading to stricter building codes and advancements in firefighting techniques. Blaming a cow, while a convenient narrative, detracts from the real lessons learned from this tragic event. That's a wrap on history's myths, so there you have it. 12 historical myths debunked. It's amazing how some stories, even if they're not entirely accurate, manage to weave their way into our collective consciousness, becoming as ingrained as the truth itself. But that's the beauty of history. It's a constantly evolving field with new discoveries and interpretations always emerging. What other historical myths have you heard? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll tackle them in a future video. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep exploring the endlessly fascinating world of history.